All right, it's 1 o'clock on Tuesday, December 31st, and that means it is time for another of NWS Gaylord's weekly winter webinars. My name is Faith Fredrickson. I'm a meteorologist here at the National Weather Service office in Gaylord, and we'll go ahead and get started with this. Just a quick note, if you have any questions, there's a little question box to pop some questions into if you have those, or you can always contact our office at any time. So there's always somebody here. And also, Happy New Year's Eve. About to start off the new year with a return to more of a wintry idea. But first, we'll take a look back at some of the recent trends. In the last week or so, it's been warm and wet. Temperatures have been above normal, and we had increasing moisture with that, which ended up resulting in more rain than snow. And that's helped to diminish the active snowpack that's been on the ground. And we really haven't seen a whole lot of snowfall to replenish that over the last week. Yeah, so you can see again here, we've been up into the at least mid 30s, if not upper 30s at times overall for an average temperature. Some areas across northeast lower got an inch or more of rainfall, especially with that rainy system that we had on Sunday. And there's only just been a little bit of snowfall over the last week or so, which really hasn't helped replenish what we've lost as far as the snowpack goes, but that last round of snow was pretty sloppy. Again, taking a look at the current snowfall and snow depth out there, most areas are running near normal as far as snowfall goes, with the exception of the Sioux, Gaylord, and Traverse City, the usual snow belts that have seen a lot more snow this year than normal. And we're actually, in a few cases, getting close to being closing in on the normal for the entire season snowfall totals. So we shall add to those in the coming weeks with the cooler weather that's ahead. But in the meantime, we'll just kind of take a look back. Like I mentioned, we had a lot of snow melt over the last week, and you can see that snow depths have definitely diminished from, we had like around 10 inches last week here at the office, and now we're running close to 3 with some spots showing a little bit of bare ground where the snow depth wasn't quite as deep. And even up across the UP, they've lost some of their very deep snowpack that they've had up there so far. But the cooler weather that we have coming up should stabilize things, and potential for more snowfall coming up should also help to replenish the snowpack for those who are particularly concerned about winter recreation and want the snow. Taking a look at some of our hazards for the next 7 days, mainly looking at lake effect snow with some rounds of accumulations, especially starting Wednesday into Saturday. But we should have periods of lake effect snowfall right on into next week with the upcoming pattern. The greatest amounts right now, especially for Wednesday night, look like they'll be across Chippewa County in the eastern UP with generally northwest to west northwest flow, and with that west northwest to northwest flow, that's also going to bring a bullseye down into the usual northwest flow snow belts of northwest lower Michigan. One of the other concerns that we have with our hazards and impacts this coming week is the cooling temperatures. We're actually going to start to drop back below normal with highs in the 20s as we start the new year and go forward, but much colder weather is ahead starting next week. This is the graphic that we currently have out that was issued this morning. We'll be updating this here in a little bit, but this kind of gives you a general idea of where we're expecting the worst of the snowfall to occur Wednesday into Wednesday night. We have on the right the chance for at least 4 inches of snow highlighted in yellows for low and medium and high for red. And those bullseyes are, again, as I mentioned, up across the Chippewa County area and across the usual bullseye down toward Mansalona, Alba, Kalkaska, down in that region. Some areas could see as much as 3 to 5 inches or more of snowfall with this system. And this is going to be the first round of snow, so we're going to take a little bit closer look at this one. But one of the uncertainties, as usual, with lake effect snow is the potential for that higher snowfall totals that we might be advertising could get kind of averaged out if the wind direction shifts around more than expected. So that would, instead of having your fire hose on one location, it would be spreading it out more and watering the garden instead of totally demolishing your garden. But we are going to be expecting reduced visibility at times with the heavier snow bands, and we are expecting a little bit higher snow to liquid ratios, so things will be a little bit fluffier, and that could also add to some potential for drifting as we get into some stronger winds going into the weekend. But so this is a map of potential worst case scenario snowfall, and I basically wanted to throw it in here not so much for the numbers, but to give you an idea of where those bullseyes are going to be. The map here actually shows 24-hour snowfall at a 10-to-1 snow to liquid ratio. So that's 10-to-1 is usually kind of on the wetter order, and we're expecting things to be a little bit more fluffy, more typical lake effect. So it's entirely possible the numbers aren't going to end up being exactly this, but it's a good place to start, especially showing where those potential bullseyes are going to be. As you can see, we're expecting the most snow up in Chippewa County, right across Bay Mills, Brimley, over to the Sioux. So that general area could have some pretty significant impacts again, as well as over toward Tequamanon Falls. The usual Kalkaska, Mansalona, Gaylord, Grayling snowbelt is likely to be our secondary bullseye. And then I also wanted to highlight the potential for a sneakier, heavier snowfall band along US 23 in Presque Isle County with northwest flow. From time to time, we do get some better snow bands with northwest flow that will weave in and out over there and basically run the full length of US 23 right down the coast, off and on. So that can be a little bit more difficult for us to see on radar. So if anybody out there happens to be in the Rogers City or Presque Isle area, we could certainly use reports if you're seeing snow over there over the next couple of days with this system, but that could potentially be one of those sneakier snowfall bullseyes that we might not 100% be aware of very well. This is another kind of, just want to give you an idea of where the worst snowfall is going to be, where the most impacts are going to be with this system, and kind of an idea of the timing. So the maps themselves are probability of 3 inches of snowfall in 6 hours. And it's really not a super significant, I guess, like there's low probabilities in the purples, like over toward Traverse City, and then they kind of swing up toward Mansalona, Frederick, Grayling for the Wednesday evening commute. They're in the middle. And then you can really start to see things pick up over Chippewa County as we go into the Thursday morning commute. And that's where those pinks and oranges are kind of highlighting better confidence in more intense snowfall to take place. And I just kind of arbitrarily picked 3 inches of snowfall in 6 hours to kind of give an idea of a little bit quicker accumulations that could be a little bit more impactful as far as trying to keep things like roads or sidewalks clean or things like that that could potentially make travel a little bit more difficult. Now looking beyond the Wednesday night system and out into the coming year and coming month of January, the 6 to 10 day outlook shows that signal for below normal temperatures to overtake much of the eastern US. And along with that, it appears we'll see some potential for above normal precipitation. And given the below normal temperatures, that's signaling that we'll see most of that precipitation fall in the form of snow for us. And then the 8 to 14 day outlook is quite a bit more dramatic, definitely showing a cold air outbreak across the eastern US. And that's signaling below normal precipitation across much of the Mississippi Valley down toward Kentucky, Tennessee, and down that way. Here in the Great Lakes, especially northern Michigan, this pattern or this general idea of cold air over the warm lake waters is more of a signal for we'll probably stay a little bit more active just because of the lakes and overlake instability and things like that to keep things from being totally sunny and clear and cold, as it may very well be down in places like Missouri or Iowa over the next couple of weeks. And longer range hazard potentials, again, kind of signal that potential for snow and cold, especially in the lake effect belts downwind of the lakes here in Michigan, as well as downwind of Lakes Erie and Ontario. There's also a moderate risk for some extreme or at least below normal temperatures, kind of that colder idea. To some degree, the warmer lakes are going to temper that a little bit, so we may not be quite as cold in most cases as it's going to be across the lake over in like Wisconsin and Minnesota and out in the Dakotas. But it's still going to be pretty chilly, and in places where lake effect doesn't set up and some places do manage to clear out, there is potential for things to get pretty cold as we go into the first and second weeks of January. As I mentioned, with the Great Lakes water temperatures, we're still running warmer than average on Lake Superior and Lake Michigan, which is again really favorable for that idea of overlake instability to generate lake effect snow. And with not a lot of ice cover right now, we're actually quite a bit below normal, or at least historical normals, as you can see on the right there. And basically with the lakes being open, this is again continues to be favorable for lake effect snow. As we get colder, however, over the next couple of weeks, it'll be interesting to see how the lake ice develops, as that could start to put a damper on some of the lake effect snow depending on where that develops and how long it stays. So that's something to keep an eye on, but it's definitely signaling that lake effect snow idea as we go into January. And basically for the key messages, as one of our forecasters said this morning, it's about to be January, both literally and weather meteorologically, with the snow and cold returning. And those are basically the key messages for the next week or so, as the rounds of accumulating lake effect snow, especially starting Wednesday, lasting through the weekend, with several inches of snow possible, especially for Chippewa County. Wednesday night into Thursday morning, which could put some impacts on that travel between like Bay Mills and Brimley over toward the Sioux. Colder temperatures are also going to begin to overtake the Great Lakes later this week and going on into the first and second weeks of January, when we're really expecting that cold air outbreak over the eastern US. And that's definitely going to keep the idea of lake effect snow in the back of our minds here at the office going forward. So that'll wrap up the winter webinar for this week. We have our contact information here for our email, Facebook, and Twitter. And our Twitter's been good so far. Cross our fingers, knock on wood. And we're going to have this webinar recorded and sent over to our YouTube within an hour or so. There's also some helpful links here that you can view in the PDF, and you can click on those to kind of take a look and explore on your own for areas that are more of interest to you specifically, because this was kind of a broad overview. So does anybody have any questions? You can put those in the question box. Otherwise, you can always feel free to call our office at 989-732-9306. And otherwise, Happy New Year. And we will see you, basically we'll talk to you again next year.